So good morning, everyone. We've been doing these the last couple weeks, and it's been great because, by Friday morning, I think people have had a long week, and, it's fun just to get together with friends and get on coffee, Zoom calls. And this week I asked Tray Raymond to join us. He is with Scottsdale Desert Inspections. And whether you don't even need to be buying or selling, but some people, even if you have a new construction property and you should get an inspection as well. Or if you just want to see if your systems are tuned up and working, you can, call an inspector. But I wanted to get him on to ask him some questions that I actually get all the time. So it's interesting. My current seller that I have right now asked me before the inspection, it was the first person that had ever asked me this, what are the typical things that they look at? And I was like, I can't believe I've been doing this for 9 years and nobody's ever asked me that. So I thought it was a great question, and it's certainly something we can, something that homeowners in general should know about. Like, these are the things that come up and these are the things you need to look at. So why don't we start with that question, Trey? Like, what are the things that you see most on home inspections?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So some of the most common things, and I would say even if somebody were to be thinking about listing their house with you, Sarina, and they kind of wanted to get, say, a game plan or just be ready for or be braced for what might come up in the report, how they get their house ready for the inspection. So some of those things that are common, first of all, are going to be, oh my gosh, let's see. Super common one is the grading and drainage.
Oh, yeah.
Finally, guys, this is all kind of sounds boring, but it's important. If the grading and drainage aren't set up, inevitably that can really end up to be leading to structural issues and things of that nature. So it's important that the grade, if possible, drains away or slopes down and away from the home. Really important that the grade material, so whether it's rock, sidewalks, anything at grade level, really important that that stuff all not be too high on the walls. So we don't want dirt up on the walls. That can attract insects, termites, moisture intrusion, a host of things. So that's a common thing.
And is that, a landscaper would be someone that you would have work on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. A professional landscaper, Sarina, should know like how far to pitch the ground, how far to rake the material down and away from the walls. Basically, if anybody on the call knows what a stem wall is of a home, the inspector is going to want to look for that stem wall all the way around the exterior walls. He's going to want to see that continuously. He's not going to want to see a mound of dirt up on the wall in one certain place. And sometimes people's dogs can do that because they're trying to dig up and stay cool outside.
Yeah.
And so you end up not unknowingly with that, in your side yard, for instance. The other thing is probably the next bigger thing is what always comes up is roofing. If I were to sell my house, as an example, I would, even though I like to think I know about roofs pretty well, I would have a roofing inspection done.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have an AC and heating inspection done, and I'd be providing that documentation as part of my home, saying, here guys, everything's got a really clean checkup.
Like a pre-list.
Kind of like a pre-list, yes. Yeah. And if anybody ever wants, I don't know how many people are aware of this, but as licensed home inspectors here, there's a document called the Arizona Standards of Professional Practice. And it's put out by the Board of Technical Registration, and that is who we are all licensed with. Now, Sarina, you're probably not aware that every time I send your clients out their paperwork via email, that attachment's on their paperwork. It's like a 4-page document. And what it does is it lays out exactly what home inspectors are required to look at, and it also lays out what we're not required to look at. So is it a boring read? Yeah, but but it's interesting in the fact that it helps educate people.
Yeah.
As far as getting the house ready, any little areas where there was leakage, you want to get that cleaned up and have it repaired. Say a condensate pipe leaked, or you had a leaky disposal under the kitchen sink. Any moisture areas, you really want to kind of get those professionally repaired and cleaned up, and have them go away if possible. Make them go away. As far as other things, if there's any attics in the home, and there are the owner's belongings underneath the attic entrance, if we can't get in, we have to write up that that attic was inaccessible. And then depending upon the buyer, if the buyer doesn't like the way that reads, they could have us come back, and it incurs additional costs and things like that. So any attics, any belongings up on the shelf under the attic entrance, as an example. Yesterday we had a car parked into the attic, we couldn't get in. So if we can
in
get
that garage.
that's great.
Yeah.
Any fans, ceiling fans, remote lights, anything like that where there's remotes in drawers and people don't have them out. If they can have them out and ready for us to use, once again, it's something less that we have to write up in the report. If we have to write up in the report that the bedroom fans couldn't be tested, it's just one of those little things that's bothersome.
Yeah. Okay, so what about, hold on, so what about people that are in, that maybe might not be quite ready to buy? Like, what are the things that you should tune up or do while, people are just stuck in their home right now? Probably you mentioned AC, right?
Yep. Checked, you might as well check it for the summer anyways. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Other things, here's a good catch. Other things, and this sounds weird, go around your house and open and close every window. You might be surprised how many are bound up with dust. Maybe they haven't been opened in 8 or 10 years, simply because that's just normal. It doesn't make the homeowner a bad person, but we call it exercising. So exercise the house. Open and close the windows. Make sure they operate super smooth. Same thing in regards to your bathrooms. If you have a house that has multiple bathrooms, say the kids have moved out and now that bathroom hasn't been used in a year, like with us, you'd be surprised if you go to use that bathroom. Sometimes the internal cartridge inside of the plumbing fixtures can break the first time you go to use it again, and you've got no hot water. And that really requires a plumber to come out and reinsert a new cartridge. You really don't want to find that out on the day of inspection.
Yeah.
You want all those, you want hot to be hot, cold to be cold. You don't want cold showers, things like that are so easy to just look at ahead of time, really can help make that report shorter.
That's interesting because, as far as the windows, I mean, we have 2.5 baths and we have 3 people, so we use those. But as far as the windows, I am a big air conditioning person, so I almost always have the air on, even if it's on a 76 or 77, but I'm usually too hot for that anyway. But I almost never open up my windows. Never.
There's a lot that
we're in a sing. Go ahead.
There's a lot that we don't either. And you've got, and then you go to open it and it can be surprisingly hard. Or it can break a spring the first time that you open it because it hasn't, the spring just fails.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's actually a pretty good idea to get all that done.
So, and then when I think of the systems that need to be tuned up seasonally, I mean, the HVAC system, which we typically do like spring and fall. Are there any other systems? What about like the water heater? Because that is supposed to be drained or something, which I never do.
Technically, it's a great idea to drain it because it builds up sludge at the bottom of the tank. Excuse me, and it can prematurely cause it to rust. hey, Sarina, if the home's been vacant for any amount of time, it's a really good idea to drain the water heater, because if the water heater, again, if the heater has not been exercised or used in a while, the water isn't leaving the heater, it's staying in there. So that water, all the calcification from the water goes to the bottom of the heater, and then the first time you use it again, you get like a rotten egg kind of a smell out of the bathrooms. And what that ends up being is it's the sludge at the bottom of the heater being churned up again, and it's coming out through the hot water. So again, if it's used regularly, not as important. If it's been sitting dormant for a while, it's a really good move to do that. Also, the sludge, I know it's an unsexy thing to talk about, but the sludge at the bottom, if you start using the heater again and everything heats up, it'll start making a bubbling or burping sound, like a banging sound almost. And that's the gases being released as they're heating up. So yeah, great idea to drain the heater, especially if it hasn't been used.
So what do you think? So there's plenty of agents that, you know, we're not technically property managers, but when we have a vacant listing, so sometimes people say flush the toilets. Like, I guess then you would also want to make sure you're running the hot and cold water. Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Of course, I always have to stand there for like 15 minutes because I want to make sure I didn't leave anything running, because if a toilet runs, it overflows.
Yeah, you're gonna have a bad day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that happened. I think you did the I'm sure you did the inspection. It was a couple years ago. My clients were buying a condo, and a pipe had burst right after the inspection, and the whole place got flooded. It was vacant, so they had to back out of the contract and then buy another condo.
Yikes.
You never know. I mean, nobody was there. They didn't know it was a first floor. No, it was a 2-level condo. First floor condo was completely flooded.
Oh, not good.
What about, so out in Arizona, with our crazy heat that we have and all that, what do you think about like some kind of an energy audit, or like I mean, I personally have the dinosaur of air conditioners. One of our air conditioners from 1987, and it actually runs better than the other one. I'm sure that it's costing us more money to run it. The other one is 2006. And I think, doesn't the electrical company, or, I mean, do they do like audits for, you know, insulation in the attic and all that stuff? Like, what do you recommend?
Yeah, there are companies out there that actually will do an energy audit and give you a rating, if you will. And they measure things not only like you mentioned, but also like if there's gaps in the doors and they can see daylight through the doors going to the outside, obviously you're losing conditioned airspace out of there. So they look at the overall envelope tightness of the home, and they give you a score on that. And you can find some of those guys that do that on Google.
Oh, okay.
Yep, and they do energy audits.
And is that something, the insulation in the attic, that's something that I know that a lot of contractors that go into your attic, move the insulation around, that's something that you report on your inspection report, right? Or is that something that
we're required to.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a requirement. Yep, definitely. And some insulation is also, you know, it was developed back in the time when it's now considered flammable. So sometimes if we see that, we'll recommend that they change their insulation out, things like that.
And what is the, you know, I'm originally from New Jersey, and my parents were both realtors there. So out there, you actually have to get a fire certification in order to close on a property. And I think if it's a new property, you need a CO, a certificate of occupancy. But what do you recommend, or what are the recommendations for like the smoke detectors and carbon monoxide? Like, is carbon monoxide detectors always recommended? Like, we don't have gas in our community, but I guess you would still need it because of the cars in the garage. And then how many fire alarms do you recommend?
So nowadays, part of the new electrical code is in reference to fire, not the fire suppression system, but like smoke detectors. There should be one in the hallways and one in each bedroom.
Okay.
And also they are required nowadays to be hardwired so that they can chime each other off, if that makes sense.
And do you do it in the bedroom or right outside the door of the bedroom?
Actually, they're in the bedrooms and in the hallway.
Oh, okay.
And then if the home has gas to it, like if you've got gas furnaces, gas fireplaces, even a fireplace, yeah, carbon monoxide detectors are now, as of late, required.
And what about how far away from the kitchen? You know, yeah.
From
Like for the smoke detectors, because if it's too close to the kitchen and you got smoke in there, it goes off.
Yep. In the hallway.
Okay, in the hallway.
Yeah, in the hallway. Yeah, and then we just had a question about chimney sweeps. By the way, in closing, if the house hasn't had new smoke detectors in the last 10 years, it's best just to put all new detectors on. So we recommend, we'll walk into a house and see older smoke detectors. You can just tell because of the style. And we recommend those all be upgraded to new smoke detectors, which their batteries last much longer. They're in better calibration. So it's a good idea. It's not very much money to do that upgrade.
But you also recommend hardwired.
Yep.
Because then people don't have to remember to change the batteries.
Well, there is a battery backup, but yeah, if they're hardwired, the battery's only in there for backup purposes.
And then what about our question in the chat box? How often should the chimney be swept or cleaned? And do you have a chimney sweep that you recommend?
Yes. Okay. It's a funny name. Chimney cricket.
Chimney cricket. Okay. That's a cute name.
Yeah. They do a good job. And as far as the frequency of sweeping, big differences here. If the fireplaces in the home are set up to run natural gas, you don't need to sweep them nearly as often as a solid fuel burning fireplace. Like a wood burning fireplace, to be honest, if you're using it a lot in the winter, probably once a year.
Okay.
Because a property called creosote builds up. And the creosote's like a tar that comes off the burning of wood, builds up in the flue, and it looks like little goose pimples up there. And basically, that stuff has its own ignition flash point. So even if you think you've put your fire out, if that stuff now catches on fire, it's gonna be on fire within the flue.
Wow.
Yeah, so we have once a year for wood burning.
What's that?
I'm sorry, once a year for wood burning fireplaces.
Okay, and then gas would be every couple of years?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we have 3 fireplaces in our house. Ask me how many times we've used them.
Well, you're from cold climate though.
I know. Well, it's like, I mean, I like the smell of like a wood burning fire, but I also feel like by the time it gets cold at like 6 or 7 at night, then it's like, you have 2 hours, 3 hours, and then you're in bed. So it's not like it's so cold that you need it on all day.
Yeah.
My husband might disagree, but we'll get them clean one of these days.
Yeah. Are they gas or wood?
They're wood.
Oh yeah, I'd have them clean.
Yeah. Well, we've lived here for 9 years, I think, and we've never used them, probably because they need to be cleaned. But does anybody else have any questions for Tray? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Let me see. No questions. Let me see if did I go through everything already? Most common. What do you do? A lot of pre-listing inspections? So like before someone were to, because I feel like sometimes I think it's a good idea, but then sometimes I feel like they're always gonna find something anyway. So, but at least, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, that's an interesting viewpoint. And you're right to an extent, for sure. Here's what it does. if somebody really wants to maintain their price and they want to, as the seller, and they want to really try to control that transition and not be caught off guard by some $15,000 credit request, a pre-listing inspection is a great idea. What it does is it allows us to go in and tell them what's going on, what will likely come up, and that way the seller can decide at a much more leisurely pace what and if they want to repair this item, that item, and just go down the list. If they've got, let's say we come up with, you know, a variety of things and they repair all of them, when the buyer shows up with his inspector, at that point, you know, that inspector is probably going to come up with a couple of things because we all look at things differently, but it's going to be much less of a blow to the seller. And the buyer's not going to have as much negotiating control at that part of the transition, at least, because it's already been proactively dealt with. And I'll say this in closing on that too, Sarina, is a buyer loves a proactive seller. A buyer loves things that are proactively maintained and repaired on the property.
Yeah.
A buyer doesn't like reactive things nearly as much.
Yeah.
So the buyer sees that, you know, hey, I'm the seller and I've done this whole inspection and I'm taking care of all this stuff, and here's the receipts, here's the work orders. That gives the buyer, I think, it gives the buyer a much more warm, fuzzy feeling about the house.
Yeah. And I like your point too about the roof inspection, because so as a buyer's agent, when I call you to do a home inspection, I also just automatically call the roofer, because sometimes they take a little longer and you just want to have like that second opinion. And but as a listing agent, I think it's also a good idea to like kind of do that ahead of time, so you know what you're getting into and you have it already ready to go when, you know, the inspection comes back or something like that. So
yes, definitely.
Well, good. Anybody, if you have any questions, you can take yourself off mute or put it on chat. Those of you that have been here before know I don't like to drag this out. It's Friday morning and we've been here almost a half an hour. We got a ton of good information from Tray, and I am buying everybody a coffee. So I will be sending you a gift card for a coffee or tea or whatever you drink after this call. So I appreciate everybody joining. If there are no other questions, we'll just thank Tray very, very much. I appreciate you joining us. And
thank you.
Thanks for being here. And I guess that is
Thank you, Sarina and Tray.
What?
I said, thank you, Sarina and Tray.
Hey, thank you for attending. We appreciate the opportunity.
Howard's back from being a yacht.
Oh, Howard? Oh yeah, he had the Coast Guard picture before. Now he's sitting on the golf course. Is that the golf course behind you?
No, the golf course is to the other side.
Oh, okay.
But it's 53 degrees and raining, so.
Wow.
I'm in New Jersey, at the moment.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. Thanks again, Tray. And I'm going to put this video up in case anybody wants to share it with anybody else that they know. And have a great day.
Thanks,
Okay,
Sarina.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.